Königsberg, Germany, September 7, 1930. At a small round-table discussion on the foundations of mathematics, a quiet 24-year-old logician mentions, almost as a footnote to his main talk, that he has found true mathematical statements that can never be proved within their own system. The moderator moves on to the next speaker. Almost no one in the room understands what has just happened. One man, sitting quietly in the audience, does. To understand why that sentence mattered, you have to go back 30 years. Mathematicians had been chasing a single, beautiful dream, a complete, airtight foundation for all of mathematics. Every true statement provable, every proof checkable by a machine with no room for human error, intuition, or doubt. Just certainty, all the way down forever. The dream had a name and a champion. Hilbert's program, after the great German mathematician David Hilbert, the most influential mathematician of his era. His motto, carved later onto his own tombstone, was simple and defiant. Wir müssen wissen. Wir werden wissen. We must know. We will know. The quiet man in Königsberg was Kurt Gödel, a Viennese logician so private and so soft-spoken that colleagues sometimes forgot he was even in the room. He had almost not given the talk at all. He was obsessively careful, prone to crippling self-doubt, and genuinely terrified of being wrong in public. Which makes it stranger still that what this anxious, meticulous young man was about to prove would upend the entire foundation of mathematics, permanently. Gödel's Incompleteness Theorem, stated plainly, says this. In any consistent mathematical system powerful enough to describe basic arithmetic, there will always exist statements that are true, but that the system itself can never prove. Not because no one has found the proof yet, because no such proof can ever exist inside that system. His method was a piece of pure mathematical judo. He built a statement, using nothing but arithmetic, that essentially says about itself, this statement cannot be proved. If the system could prove it, the system would be proving a falsehood and would contradict itself. If the system could not prove it, then the statement was true exactly as it claimed, and forever out of reach. Sitting in that audience in Königsberg was John von Neumann, already regarded as one of the sharpest mathematical minds alive, a man who would go on to help build the atomic bomb and the modern computer. While the rest of the room moved on to the next talk, von Neumann sat with what he had just heard, turning it over. He pulled Gödel aside after the session ended, asking pointed questions. Weeks later, von Neumann wrote to him privately with a further result of his own, a second, even sharper incompleteness theorem, extending Gödel's proof to show a system can never even prove its own consistency. Then, remarkably, von Neumann stepped back and gave Gödel full and sole credit for the entire discovery. Hilbert's dream of a complete self-certifying mathematics, the dream an entire generation of mathematicians had organized their careers around, was over. Not weakened, not delayed by a few decades of further work. Provably, mathematically, permanently impossible. The shockwave did not stop at mathematics. In 1936, a young British mathematician named Alan Turing used the exact same kind of self-referential trick to prove something just as strange, that no computer, however powerful, could ever determine in general whether a given program would finish running or loop forever. The limits Gödel found buried in logic turned out to be limits on computation itself, limits that every computer built since has quietly lived inside. Gödel eventually fled Europe and settled at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey, the same young institute that had just recruited another refugee from the old continent, a physicist named Albert Einstein. The two men, decades apart in age, wildly different in temperament, became inseparable. Every morning they walked together to the institute. Every evening they walked home again, deep in conversation, often in German, about physics, philosophy, and the nature of time itself. Einstein, by then world-famous and constantly pursued by journalists and admirers, once confessed that, in his later years, he kept coming into the office at all mostly for one single reason: for the privilege of walking home with Kurt Gödel. But Gödel's brilliant mind had a darker side that few outside his closest circle ever saw. Years earlier, a close friend and mentor of his had been murdered. After that, Gödel developed a lasting, consuming fear of being poisoned. He would eat only food that his wife, Adele, had personally prepared with her own hands. In late 1977, Adele herself fell seriously ill and was hospitalized for 6 months. With no one left that he trusted enough to prepare his meals, Kurt Gödel simply, quietly, stopped eating. He died on January 14, 1978, in Princeton Hospital, weighing just 65 pounds. The official cause of death recorded by the hospital: malnutrition and inanition, caused by personality disturbance. The man who mathematically proved that even mathematics, the single most certain, most rigorously logical language human beings have ever built, contains truths it can never fully verify from the inside. Could not, in the end, survive a fear that no proof, no logic, and no person he trusted could ever fully talk him out of. Even Gödel had a statement he could not resolve. If a single offhand remark from a nervous, quiet man in a conference room could permanently break a century of mathematical certainty. Hit subscribe. Turning Point covers the single moments that quietly changed everything, explained clearly in under 15 minutes. And if this one changed the way you think about certainty, proof, or truth itself, hit like too. It's what tells YouTube to put this in front of someone else who needs to see it. See you in the next Turning Point.